Hey, what's going on, everyone? Mike here in the BFH garage. As you can see, I have my red 2020 Gladiator behind me. Driving down the road, heard the wear indicator on the brakes start to make noise, which tells me it's time to replace the brakes. Now, I knew I was getting close because my Gladiator has 62,000 miles on the original OEM brakes, which is incredible to get that much mileage out of them. But now I know it's time to replace them. So went and picked up a couple rotors, got me some brake pads. I'm going to do the job here and show you how to do that. Now, I'm not going to do the rear brakes today. I need to inspect those to see if they're worn or not. But typically, your front brakes do the majority of the work. They're going to need to be replaced more often than the rears. The rears might make it another cycle before they need to get replaced. I don't know. I will find out once I get this up on the rack and do an inspection on it. But today's video is solely going to focus on the front brakes. All right, before we get started, one of the first things I want to do is I want to lift that hood up, pop the hood up. I'm going to undo the brake fluid reservoir cap, and I'm going to put a little blue towel right over that. And the reason I'm going to do that here is because once I get it up on the lift, I'm not going to be able to get to it. But when you take the brake pads out of the calipers, you need to use some sort of clamp to push the caliper piston back into the housing. So I'm going to pop this cap now, then we're going to put this thing in the air, then we'll start taking everything apart. All right, as you can see here, the max line is up here. My fluid is down to there. Once I squeeze those pistons back out, it's probably going to bump that fluid back up to there. In fact, in the past I've done it. I pushed it in too hard, too fast, and I've created a little bit of an overflow. So I've learned now to put a blue shop towel here to help contain or absorb any of that overflow, and that'll be good. Now I can take the cap, put it there just to keep dust out in the meantime. But at least now that's set for when I compress the calipers, the pistons back into the housing. With the wheels off, next I have my little table here that has all my tools. You need a 13 millimeter to pull off the caliper bolts. You need a 21 millimeter to get the caliper bracket bolts. And I do say to pull this off because it's easier to get everything lined up in there when this thing is off of this truck. You also have a little torque one there that is a T30. So that'll be a T30. If this gets stuck or if it doesn't want to come off easily, take a torch to it. Another thing you can do actually that would probably help it is to put your Torx bit in there, hammer it on it a couple times. That'll help make it come loose. But if not, just take a little map torch or something, put it right on the nut for just a few minutes, or not even a couple minutes, but long enough to heat it up to get that Loctite to come loose. So first thing I'm going to do is get my caliper off, and then I'm going to hang up the caliper using this bungee cord. Now be careful when you take this off. You want to make sure you get your bungee cord through. Back around the other side, and I just hang it right there on the control arm. Makes it nice and easy access, and then I'll show you the clamp trick here in a minute, but it keeps that there nice and easy. So the next thing we'll get into will be the clamp. So the C-clamp here, what it's going to do, it's going to take this double piston here and it's going to push it back down into the housing. So the thing I'm going to use to do that is going to be the old brake pad. So I'm going to pull the brake pad out. I'm going to set it right there, get my C-clamp set up to where it pushes down right in the middle between those two. And then slowly, and I mean slowly because it's easy to go fast and have your reservoir up top overflow. You don't want to do that. So once you get that going right there, just take it nice and slow. In fact, you can hold on to the clamp at this point and you'll feel it start to go. And as I do this, this is pushing down the two pistons into the housing. Once you feel it get to where it's snug, you don't need to go any tighter because you don't want to break it. Okay, that pad's bad anyway, so I don't need that. Next thing we need to do is get the caliper bracket bolts off. Again, that's 21 millimeter on these. You may need to use a breaker bar to pop these loose. I'm going to take this, set it over on the table. Now to get the rotor off, this is where you have to remove this nut. So if your rotor looks like it might be seized or on there, if you're replacing your rotor, if you're going to resurface it, don't do this, but if you're going to replace it, until it comes loose, take your rotor off, discard it. One thing I will do is I will put oh my God, the anti-seize. I'm going to take the anti-seize, put it along here, so when I put the new rotor on, it doesn't seize up to this. Get your new rotor, get it out of the bag, clean it some brake clean. That's going to get all that packing oil or packing grease off of it. Take and set that over here. Comparing the old pads to new, these weren't actually bad for having 62,000 miles on there. I think there's still a lot of life left, but I'm going to go ahead and just go with new pads just because I tow that other vehicle. I don't want to have any questions. All right, so make sure you don't get any grease or anything onto the pads. That's always bad. You have these new hardware clips here. You're going to pull that out just like that. You're going to see how they line up the same. You're going to take them, line everything up. They can be a little bit finicky to get in here, but you want to get everything lined up and get them to snap into place. With those clips in place now, what I want to do is I'm going to take a little bit of grease. I'm going to find the inner one, so this will be the inner side here. These slide on those and put just a little bit of grease there. Again, be sure you don't get it on the face of your brake pad. Make sure I wipe all the grease off my hands. You can use plastic gloves, change those out if you want. I just don't want to get anything on the face of this. So now we need to get this in here. And you're going to notice these little clips are kind of springy. You have to, you got to get it in there in a way that it just doesn't break the clip, because it's easy to do that. If you're looking at this thing, you're trying to get it in there, this thing could be a bear to get in. So you got to kind of work one side, get it in, come over, work the other side. And it's a little bit tricky, but you'll eventually get it. Just like that. Hold that one there. I'm going to rotate this way now. Same thing, grease to this side. I should have probably just done them both at the same time, but all right, come to the other side. Take your time getting these in. This wear indicator goes above this. It doesn't go between it. So slide that in there just like that. I'll put that in there first. I'm going to come over to this other side. Make sure I get my spring here down all the way first. There we go. Springs in, stays right there. Make sure you don't have any grease on your fingers once you start touching this stuff. Now, I'm going to take grease, and I'm going to show you here in just a second. I'm going to put it on the caliper side where the two pistons are in the facing, because anything that's metal to metal that's going to move a little bit, you got to put grease on. First thing I'm going to do is get these right here, all the way around. If you get squeaks in your brakes and it drives you nuts and it's not the wear indicator, probably because you don't have grease where it needs to be on these. Now the other place I'm going to put is on the backing of these, and that is because those wear against the back side of the pads. So I don't want to put too much on there because I don't want it to get hot, wear off, and get on the pads. I just want to smear it around, make sure I have enough to keep the pads from squeaking. Take all that excess off. Clean your hands before you touch anything else. All right, you remember I put the rotor over here. Right here is our threaded hole for this retaining bolt. Get that started. My impact, I'm going to just put it on there just enough to snug it up. That's not too critical, just holds it in place. Now I'm going to come over with the caliper bracket that has the new pads in there. Be careful, you don't want those new pads to fall out, because if they fall on the ground and break, then guess what? You're going to need some new ones. So be real careful about that. Insert the bolt. So I can hold it now by the pads. It's not going to go anywhere. But you want to insert your caliper bolts, get them started, then tighten them down to spec. See what I mean here when I say this is a really simple job? It really is. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my bungee cord off of the control arm, pull it out of my caliper, throw it there, and get my caliper lined up. Now be careful, these little tabs right here need to be pushed in before you go smashing things together. Get your caliper bolts, line them up, get them started by hand, and then torque them to spec. I've told you it's pretty simple. It's as simple as it looked. It's as simple as I made it out to be. Get your wheels back on. Make sure when you drop it back onto the ground, you torque those lug nuts, and you are good to go. We'll see you on the next one.